Hello and welcome to Into Darkness Northwest. My name is Randy Jackson.
And my name is Misty Nichole.
And Misty, do you know what's in my hand right now?
Not coffee.
No, not coffee, but I do have Batman in my hand right now. Do you know why I have Batman in my hand right now?
Why?
Because he is a great detective, and he solves crimes. And we're here to talk about a crime, speaking of solving crimes. We're here to talk about the case of Ronie Parrot, the woman who disappeared from a Boise Maverick station on 27th and Main on August 25th, 2015.
And her body was found at Holes Gulch area of Boise, Idaho on February 13th of 2016.
And so it was definitely a homicide, and we're here to try and figure out and get some people talking about what may have happened, kind of like a good detective like Batman would do.
There you go.
He would probably beat people up, but we're not going to do that. So, all right, so tonight we're interviewing her best friend, Nichole, and so we're going to find out from her best friend's perspective, you know, kind of what was going on in Ronnie's life, maybe hopefully some clues as far as to what was going on. And so we've spoken, if you haven't caught the last two videos, we spoke with Ronnie's daughters, Tila and Maya. Mm-hmm. And so tonight we're talking with Nichole. Let's see what Nichole has to say, Misty.
Yes, let's do that. And if you have any more information that you want to share with us, contact us at intodarknessnw@gmail.com.
Or check out our Facebook page, and you can message us there also, Into Darkness NW on Facebook.
Yes, and please like, share, and subscribe.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to start off. It sounds like I can tell already that this might be an emotional subject for you.
Yeah, it took me a little while to get to a point where I wasn't spontaneously crying. You know, she was a part of my daily life, and we spent a lot of time together once we found each other again. And for her to just be taken away suddenly was a little overwhelming at the time. And at the same time, and it was just a little overwhelming for me at the time. And then when we found her, February 13th, the next year, and the state that she was in was something that I didn't think could happen, you know, to someone that you knew. Mm-hmm. It seemed really horrific what he did to her. And we knew the second she came up missing. I think those of us that were close to her knew exactly who it was.
Okay. So you've known her. How long have you known her?
Well, we met when we were 4.
Okay.
We started kindergarten together and just kind of grew up through grade school together. And when we went to high school and got lots of different classes, we kind of drifted apart. And she kind of ran around with a different crowd than I did. Mm-hmm. And grew up, had children, and then when I came back to Idaho, we connected on Facebook and realized that we were in the same area. So we started our friendship back up again.
When was that?
That was in 2008.
2008.
And then it became an every Sunday thing that we would spend every Sunday for a couple hours, 2-3 hours together.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Wow. Okay.
So how would you describe Ronie?
Ronie, I think a lot about Ronie was misunderstood. Mm-hmm. From the outside looking in, she was of questionable behaviors, maybe. But knowing her, she would give anybody the shirt off her back. She was just the most loving, caring person when it came to other people, but she cared, I think, very little about herself.
Okay.
And that's what got her into a lot of trouble, I think, that she cared more about other people than she did about herself.
Okay. So her daughters told us that she would let people stay with her.
Yeah.
Was that, were there any people that would stay with her that you thought were suspicious? Like, you know what I mean?
All of them.
So it wouldn't be hard to say that they might have even done something. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess she had made a couple of. I just know who did it, so I can. There were some people that she did live with, that lived with her, that ended up, kind of stabbing her in the back. That I guess could be labeled as suspicious. But honestly, I don't think that they had anything to do with her disappearance. The reason why I'm so convinced that it was him, besides just those gut feelings and the fact that he had attempted to hurt her the summer that she disappeared, but he had made false confessions to people that have reached out to me, meaning confessions of being of what happened that night, trying to cover his tracks.
okay. Do you feel comfortable saying who that is that you suspect? Okay.
So that's
her boyfriend, right?
Well, that was her ex-husband.
Ex-husband?
Oh, it was her ex-husband. Okay. All right. We heard boyfriend on and off. We heard on again, off again boyfriend, but we hadn't heard that they had actually been married.
Well, just I don't know if that was legal or not.
So common law, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
she had referred to him as her ex-husband to me.
Okay.
We've heard it's been a long time, 19 years on and off again, so.
Yeah, they had been on and off again. He was a little mental, so she'd get tired of those things, leave, but then out of the kindness of her heart, when he was struggling and needed help, she would take him in and help him. And that's kind of where they were at in their relationship. The summer that she disappeared, was she was helping him, and he was living in a converted garage on the property that she was at, and she was helping him with the animals and with a place to stay, because he was a convicted felon, and that's a struggle to deal with day-to-day life after having something like that on your record. So they were kind of helping each other, but then got involved with things that they shouldn't have been getting involved with again, and that substance that they were using did not go well with his mental problems that he had.
Okay.
And he could just become violent.
Okay.
A moment's notice. And she had sent me pictures that summer of he just had walked by her and sliced her hand open.
Oh, wow.
For no reason. And still, even though I'd you need to get away from that guy, you need to, whatever you need to do. No, I can't do that. He's got all these cats. He needs my help. Again, caring more.
They enabled him?
Oh, yeah, they enabled each other. They were codependent on each other.
Okay.
And that was a lot of why they were still on and off again, because they would needed each other to survive at some point. They thought that.
Yeah.
They needed each other. They would have been better off not doing that, but
it almost becomes an addiction in and of itself, probably, though.
Yes. That's a very accurate statement as far as our relationship goes, I think.
Yeah.
So I do have a quick question. You said that she sent you pictures of different things that was done to her. Did she ever file a police report?
No, no, they would not involve police into their lives.
Is there a reason why they wouldn't have involved the police?
Um, just because she also was a convicted felon, and I think that the less police activity around them, they felt the better.
Can I ask, if it's all right, if you feel comfortable sharing, uh, what were they both felons for? Or what had they done?
Well, of course, mine is just hearsay. I wonder if she told me the complete truth about what she had done, but she told me that she had taken the rap for her boyfriend at the time, who had some stolen checks and
Okay.
had some checks. And she told me that she wasn't involved in that and she just took the rap for it, which would be another example of her caring about others more than herself. Now, I don't know for certain what's true about that.
But she did
I, I have found that she would try to present herself in a better light to me than I think that she always kind of looked up to me and she wouldn't want me to be disappointed in her. So it's possible that she could have softened some of those charges.
What about Dave?
Dave, I'm not sure what he had been. He had been in and out of jail for probably drugs and things like that, but I don't know for sure what he had been in and out for. But I do know that he was a felon and not allowed to carry a gun. And right after she disappeared, he had been pulled over and had a weapon and had been jailed for parole violation for having that gun and was in jail for a good amount of time while we were still searching for her.
Do you know, out of curiosity, so and to be kind of, I guess, blunt here, I know that the cause of death was gunshot or strangulation. I'm not for sure. We're not for sure if it was the strangulation or gunshot, but that she was definitely had a gunshot wound. When they picked him up, you said that they picked him up and that he had a weapon with him. Do you know if they tested that gun?
I don't know if they tested that gun. I do know that her body was deteriorated enough where they might not have been able to get any information about the gun from her body.
Okay.
But her mother did keep me in the loop for some time about what the detective was finding. And he pretty much knew it was Dave also, but at this point, still, they don't have enough solid proof to charge him with anything.
Do you know the name of the? I'm so sorry.
No,
Do you know the name of the detective?
I don't.
Okay.
Do you know if it was a single gunshot or if there was multiple? Because the news articles say one thing, but we kind of heard something else. So
there was 3 gunshot wounds, and one was to her face.
Okay.
I haven't heard the strangulation at all.
So here's, I'll tell you kind of one thing about what we're, as far as when we look into this, without a doubt, we know that, we know about the main suspect who people believe it was, but we're trying to also just kind of, cover everything and looking at every angle too. So that's why sometimes we'll ask different questions about if there was other possibilities, because we want to make sure that because we don't know any of the, this is our first time meeting you. We obviously we didn't know Ronie. We didn't know anybody else involved with the case. So just trying to make sure we look at every angle as we're kind of going through the discussion. So I guess another question that I was wondering about, when when we're talking about the substance abuse, is there any possibility that maybe there was because of involvement in that, maybe somebody like a dealer or somebody like that may have been angry or upset?
Yeah, I guess that's always a possibility, but I didn't know any of that crowd that she was around with.
Okay.
And they all used like nicknames too. So that's one thing. Nobody ever used their real name
No, they don't.
in that group.
Yeah.
But like I said, I would only ever see her on Sundays. I would go to church and then go to hang out with her. And the only reason why I ever knew any of the people from her other group of friends was the ones that were staying with her at the time when I would go over there. And that's really the only way that I knew any of them. I do know that she had a very large group of people that knew her. She knew people from the streets. She knew people from the music crowd. She knew people from the drug crowd. So, and I didn't know any of them except a couple of them that had stayed at her house with them. So I think that's a possibility.
So here's another question too, because you brought up another kind of avenue we wanted to kind of ask about as well. So I heard that, or we've heard that she worked at the knitting factory. Is that correct?
Yeah, for a short time she did.
Okay, but also we've heard that she was a music promoter, and I think there was something on her Facebook page about that as well. We're just trying to get kind of an understanding of what exactly it was she was doing.
The knitting factory, she just basically took tickets at the front and did made sure people didn't jump that fence and get in. And she was let go because now again, she told me that some kids jumped the fence and she wasn't able to get to them. Rumor is that she actually let some people in for free. So she lost her job at the knitting factory, and she was doing basically just online social advertising for different heavy metal rock groups. Mm-hmm. But that was something that she was actively trying to do when she disappeared, but she had just begun doing that.
Okay, just begun. Okay, that helps a lot. Yeah, like I said, we were just trying to get a time to figure it out. Do you know where she was staying at the time?
So at that time, they were told that they had to move out of the place that they were staying in, and that included the converted garage in the back that Dave was staying in. So they all were forced to leave. Tila and her family had found a trailer in Nampa to stay at, and Tila and her husband didn't really get along with Ronie, and the landlord lived very close to that trailer. So she was not allowed to move to Nampa with them.
Ronie was not?
Right. And Tila didn't really want her moving with them either because she was trying to distance herself from that lifestyle with the two young kids. And there was just a lot of fighting going on between Ronie and Tila's husband. And so they were just trying to distance themselves. And so Ronie didn't have a place to stay. And I lived in Nampa also. And I begged her to come and stay with me and try to help her get on her feet with a legit sort of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And try to help her with that. She wouldn't. She refused to do that. She said that the only way that she could make money was in downtown Boise, and she would rather be. There was, some younger kids, some teenagers in downtown Boise that had bad home situation that she kind of mothered these teenagers, and also the fact that she felt like that was the only place that she could make money was downtown. So she wouldn't come to Nampa, and she felt like she would be too isolated out here. So what she did instead was she chose to live on the street at that point. And I know that she was staying with the fire chief of the forest fire.
Isn't that who Dave worked for?
Yes.
And what was his name?
I do not remember if I even ever knew it. My husband might remember the fire chief there. And she had to move basically everything she owned into his shed out back of his place. And she had texted me and told me that someone ripped her off. Someone got into that shed and took everything. Mm. And so she didn't feel safe there anymore. So she went and moved into a garage of a place that was, she described it to me as basically inundated with drugs. And it was a friend of hers, and it was her mission to get all the riffraff out of that place and kind of start a legit lifestyle there. And she was going to help these people that owned that house get rid of all the drug use and stuff. And at that point, the house got raided by the cops. She wasn't there at the time that it got raided, but during the raid, the police took her laptop and her phone, which was the only way that anyone had access to communication with her. So at that point, my communication with her was very spotty and ended pretty much right after that, because she didn't have, the police got all of her communication. So it was in that garage at that place was the last that I knew where she was staying.
So we were told about a fight that happened that I think it was with David and her taking his license plates or something. And do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that. Brian, do you remember the fire chief's name that she was staying with?
I want to say Jared, but I don't know.
Oh, I think that was it. I think it was Jared.
That sounds familiar.
Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
Jerry or Jared?
Jerry.
Jerry.
So to your knowledge, do you think she was using herself during that time?
I think that Dave did get her back involved with.
Okay. Because I know it's hard a lot of times once you're in that lifestyle and you hang around those people, it's easy to go back into it. So
I think she was. She didn't tell me that. She would never tell me that. She was ashamed.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't talk to me about things she was ashamed about.
It sounds like she protected those that she didn't want to know some of that stuff. She really kept a lot of that from them. So
yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So you said that she had been robbed and she didn't feel safe where she was living. Did she at all mention maybe who had stolen from her or who was making her not feel safe there?
She believed it was Jerry that stole the stuff because he was the only one that had the key. And there was no forced entry.
Okay. And another question that I had was, you said that there was a police raid on the place. Is there any possibility that maybe some of the people who were there felt like she would have been responsible?
Yeah, and she told me that. Yes, that they thought that she was the one that did it.
Interesting. Okay. Do you happen to know any of the names of the people that were living there?
Who was that tall guy? That tall, skinny guy?
Where?
Ronnie's friend, that tall, skinny guy that would be over there some Sundays. That's the glasses. That's the house that she was staying at. I can't remember his name.
Okay.
That's okay. Was Dave and Jerry, did they get in trouble with the raid? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't believe Dave was at that place.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So I don't know if you can even put it into words. Why do you feel so confident? Why do you think the police are so confident that it was Dave?
Because he had been violent with her in the
Okay.
past, and he had been violent with her just a couple weeks before
Okay.
this happened. And yeah, he probably was paranoid schizophrenic. He definitely.
Okay.
And also, there was a friend of his that texted me a couple of years after her disappearance, and our texting conversation kind of solidified that in my mind with the false confession that he made to her.
Do you know who that was?
Yeah, her name was Jody.
Jody?
That's the second time we've heard that
Yeah.
name.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have her. And she told me some things, like his explanation of why, of what happened. Oh,
So I'm glad that you bring this up. So
Yeah. 'Cause-
know her, but we did text for a little bit, and she
Okay.
gave me all the information.
Didn't he work with her or something like that?
I know that she knew the fire chief, and so she was involved with the fire stuff, but I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
do you know how we could get in touch with her?
I just have her on my Facebook Messenger.
So I did have another question for you. Oh, do you know anything about the night she disappeared, as far as what she was doing that day or that night? We know that she was at a Maverick gas station, and when we spoke with Mia, Mia believes she was on the phone with her when Ronnie got to that gas station, and she said that Ronnie had to get off the phone because she'd bumped into some friends there. And that's the last that Mia had heard from her. So just out of curiosity, do you know anything about what was going on in her life at that night, or who those friends may have been?
No, unfortunately, because her phone was lost in the raid, my communication with her after the raid was almost nothing. So I just know what I've heard from Jennifer, her mom, telling me what the detective had found out. So that was all the information I knew about that night.
Okay.
Do you remember how far before her disappearance that raid happened approximately?
Days.
Days? Okay.
And you may not know the answer to this, but do you know of anybody who may have known who was living there at the time?
Living at the house that got raided?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I just knew one person that she told me, I'm staying at his house, and I just can't remember his name. And I knew he had a family. He had a wife and some girls.
Okay.
And that was the big motivator about Ronnie trying to. She felt like that was her home at that point, and she was trying to help them get rid of all the stuff because the kids were there.
Okay.
And you may not know this, and you don't have to answer it either. We went up to the foothills to the Holes Gulch area. Do you know how remote her body actually was when they found it, or was it fairly like?
I went up there to try and figure out where they found her, and from what I don't know for certain. It's all just trying to put pieces together myself, being my little detective self. Yeah. But I don't think it was far off from a walking path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a jogger walker.
It was. I just find it interesting that she was, from what they gather, up there quite a while before anybody found her. And we went up, and it was snowy, foggy, and it was January, so it was pretty active for that time. You know what I mean? So I was just surprised it took that long.
Yeah, we talked to some people that were out walking around, and just to kind of get an idea of the area and what it was like, and they said that there was it's pretty active all winter with people hiking around and walking around up there. So that was what we were trying to figure out is it's just, I don't know what the right word is, just fascinating that it took so long for them to find her.
Well, it had been closed off for the winter. It was beyond the point where they were allowing vehicles to travel. It had been blocked off for the winter because it was too high up. So it didn't really surprise me that she didn't get found until they opened that area back up.
Okay.
Hikers could have gone back there, of course, but it was closed to vehicles.
Yeah, we figured it was closed to vehicles, but there was a lot of foot traffic when we were there.
Yeah.
And a lot of hikers and joggers, and they
Bicycle riders even.
Yeah, there was even a few bicycle riders, and we talked to several of them. They're like, yeah, people walk and hike this area all winter.
Yeah, she must have been further off the hiking trail at then. I did go up there, and it was all just pretty much guessing and looking at the background of the news reports.
Yeah, that's what we were doing.
Yeah, just trying to figure out where she was. So I just kind of put it together. It wasn't too far off, but if there was lots of foot traffic through the winter, she had to be further away than I guess.
Yeah.
So I do have one. I have a couple more questions. Sorry. And I'm sure that you may not have this, but some of the pictures that she sent to you, do you still have those?
Unfortunately, they were on different phone with different phone number.
Okay. So
all I have is our Facebook messages anymore.
Yeah, no, understand. And then what do you think that his motive would have been? If that's who it was, what do you think? Just a fit of rage, maybe, or
rage? I think drugs had a lot to do with it. Ronie, I think he just had really a lot of mental problems, and putting crank on top of that, and then he had the gun also, and he'd been violent with her before. He was just crazy.
So do you think the only reason why the case isn't solved is because they don't have the
physical proof?
The physical proof?
I believe so, because man, that text, that his conversation with that Jody girl, and if everything she told me is true, it's definitely trying to come up with a story of how she got shot. And he fully admitted that he was there with her, but he said that it was accidental. Okay. I don't know how you could accidentally shoot somebody 3 times.
Right.
And accidentally drag them up into the foothills and drop their body off.
Right. Okay.
Do you have any other?
Is there anything else you think people should know? Or that you want to share with us that you don't want people to know even? I mean, that's,
Man, I just wish that I just feel like the detective has enough. I mean, I don't have anything to really add or ask. I just would really like this to be solved.
To get the closure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you done?
I have one more, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna. It said for the final question, just to end on a nice note.
That's
so
what I was gonna do. So
okay, go ahead then.
I was gonna just say, what's your favorite memory of her?
That's what I was gonna ask.
My favorite memory of her would have to be the first time I met her. We were both 4 when we entered kindergarten, and I was kind of the redheaded stepchild. I wasn't really hanging around with anyone, and she just kind of grabbed me and said, "You're my new friend," and took me under her wing, and that was the end of it. She would always look for the outcast and befriend them. She was always trying to take care of everybody. And her heart was, I've never known anyone that was so loving and giving to people. And I wish that she could have loved herself that much.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I hope that we can do her some justice, and I hope that we can help people. If you say that she was willing to help people and give them the shirt off her own back at her own expense. I'm really hoping that as we get the discussions going, I'm hoping that some people will step forward and share things that will help her for a change. So thank you so much for the interview tonight. I really appreciate it. And we are so sorry for the loss of your friend. Wow, that was so that was quite the interesting interview, don't you think, Misty?
It was, yes. She
I
had a
feel
lot
like,
of info.
yeah, I feel like that we learned definitely a different take from Nichole and from her perspective as opposed to her daughter's perspective.
Yes.
What do you think that is?
You know, even though I think that as a friend, she can see things maybe from a different perspective than your daughters would. The one thing that I still hear from her children and from her friends so far is that she was so generous and she cared about people. So I think that she was able to share maybe some deeper sides of Ronie that her girls didn't, but the generosity still comes back to how much she cared about people.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I caught up on that too. That it's not just her daughter saying that she's a very kind and generous person. It's other people outside of that influence as well. Kind of helps bring that reality home that this is not just a Ronie was not just a statistic that got that was murdered. She's not just a name in the paper, but she was a real person who had real impact on people's lives.
Right. And it sounds like even from Nichole, it sounds like she was very active in the music industry. She liked her bands, working at the knitting factory and promoting local bands.
Yeah.
So again, back to that whole, she loved music, she loved people.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I love music and I love people too. So, have you ever been to the knitting factory out of curiosity?
I have not.
I have once. I saw Alice Cooper there. It was a good concert.
Okay.
So a long time ago. So as kind of looking back at some of the things that Nichole was saying, it definitely seems like that there's definitely some questionable people in Ronie's life at this point in time.
Right. It does sound like she let people stay with her that sounded questionable. Sounds like she lived kind of a rough life, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I'll just put this out there now, as far as if there's anybody watching this that maybe had spent some time living with Ronie around this time, we would love to speak with you, kind of get a take for what her mind and her mentality was at the time, so.
And it does sound like from even Nichole that they are very confident of who they think did it, but that doesn't mean that's who did it. It's just that they seem very confident because of the relationship that they had. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was really interesting because she talked about David being the person that she believed was the person who's responsible. Now that of course doesn't like what you said, that doesn't mean anything. Look, everybody is innocent until proven guilty, and so for us, we want to talk to everybody. We want to try and narrow that down, and there could be other people, like we said, there's questionable people that she had stayed with, that she'd let stay with her, but yeah, it does seem interesting. Look, if what Nichole is saying is accurate about Nichole or about David and Ronie's relationship, it definitely brings that whole perspective back as far as domestic violence. And she said that he was abusive towards her, and she said she had heard him threaten to kill Ronie, and that Ronie had texted pictures of the abuse. And so and I do want to say this. The thing that Nichole had said is, because remember we asked her about, well, why didn't Ronie ever go to the police about this? Can I just say to anybody who may be watching this, if you are in a relationship where you are being physically abused, or if you, no matter what the circumstances in your life, go to the police. reach out, find someone to help you. Do not just stay in a relationship where you're being abused physically, because I'm not saying that this is the case in this particular case, but there are times when that abuse goes too far, and either your life is taken, or the life of people around you, and it's just not worth it. Find help. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, definitely, without a doubt, he seems like a viable suspect,
Mhm.
but of course, hey, we want to know his side of the story. Just
Right.
because one person says that that's who they believe did it, doesn't mean it's true. So David, if you are watching this, or if you know David, please, we want to talk. We would love to hear your side of the story.
Mhm. Right. And I think that we have to remember that she had people in and out of her life. Any number of those people could have, from what it sounds like, they were probably doing drugs.
Yeah.
And people on drugs do the craziest of things. So,
Well, there's this police raid that Nichole told us about.
right.
Now, I'm not sure what exactly that's all about, but this is, we haven't heard about the police raid up to this point. So, we would love to know more information. If you know anything about this police raid, please talk to us. But from what Nichole said, sounds like people were blaming Ronie for that.
Right. So if they were upset with her because they thought she had something to do with it, any number of things could happen.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's, people don't like it when you go to the police about what's going on. And if they believed that Ronie was responsible, they
Right.
might have motive.
And she probably didn't, but even if they believe it, they might
Yeah.
have motive.
Man, I tell you what, rumors, they start, and they're easy. They're hard to get rid of once they start. And if somebody started saying, "Hey, I think that she's the one that was responsible,"
Right.
so
Yep.
we have more than one person who's a viable suspect so far, I think.
Right.
But yeah, it's very, very interesting, very informative for sure.
Mhm.
So
Still curious though, because she said that her phone and her laptop got taken in the raid. So it'd be interesting to know when that raid happened and be able to find some more specific details on that raid.
Yeah.
However, I'm still curious as to if anybody saw Ronie the day she disappeared. We haven't heard from anybody that's actually talked to her from the day she's disappeared. It'd be interesting to find someone that did.
That's a true point. It seems like the only person that we have heard from that may have spoken with Ronie on the day she disappeared was Maya, who was which goes back to this situation with the phone, because Maya said that she believed that she was that she talked with Ronie on the phone the day she disappeared.
Right.
So yeah, but she didn't know who she saw. It was just a brief phone conversation. So once again, look, if you saw Ronie on the day she disappeared on August 25th, 2015, we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. Even if you just saw her for like 5 minutes,
Because it'd be interesting to know what her state of mind was on that day.
Exactly.
Did she think something was happening? I mean, or was she just her normal self? Because this is just, it's horrific. And from what Nichole said, her body was in pretty bad shape when they found her. So,
yeah,
we know that she spent quite a bit of time out in the wilderness, out on that trail, wherever they found her.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's been a good and informative interview. Man, I'm going to have to digest some of what we learned and put some pieces together. This has been interesting. So, but just kind of put this out there again. Look, we have some names that keep coming up. David, Jerry, Jody. We would love to talk with these people. We'd love to talk to anybody who saw Ronie on August 25th, 2015, or the day before even. And we would love to talk with anybody who may have any information on the case. And you can remain anonymous. You don't have to do an on-camera interview with us like Nichole did. But definitely we want to talk to people who might have some information on this.
Yes.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I think that's all I have for right now.
All right. Well, it looks like we have an interview coming up soon with somebody who knew David. Speaking of somebody who was in a position of authority over him at the firefighter place, playing Buffalo, I believe is the name of it. And so we'll be looking forward to hearing from that person on our next release. So stay tuned. It ought to be interesting. He says he has some very interesting information for us that we'll want to hear. So.
And don't forget, if you have any information and you want to share it with us, we have Gmail, intodarknessnw@gmail.com.
Yeah, or you can contact us on our Facebook page, which is Into Darkness NW on our Facebook page as well. And so definitely reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
And please like, share, and subscribe.
Absolutely. Let's get people talking and make this cold case a closed case.
Yes.